Over the years, the entry-level and mid-range segments have evolved a lot, to the point where it's actually a good choice or even a better choice than spending more money on flagships and value flagships. Phones in this segment these days come with high refresh rate displays, compelling camera setups, impressive battery life, and the list goes on. Looking back at the segment a few years ago, the mid-range segment was just starting to gain traction, and many phone brands launched decent phones for not a lot of money. In this video, we'll be taking a look at one such phone from Lenovo, the Lenovo Vibe P1, and see how it holds up 6 years later. The design wasn't anything flashy or attractive. It was plain, simple and functional. And that is not a bad thing since this design is mostly tried and tested. The colorway I have here is platinum, which is a very faint light grey colorway, and it looks very classy in person. The ergonomics are also good, with the phone's weight distribution being evenly distributed along the top and bottom halves of the phone. The curved back also helps with handling as it slots well in the hand for single-handed usage. The build quality is great. In fact, it is better than most mid-range phones these days. Most of the body is made from metal, aluminium to be exact. The phone has plastic top and bottom ends, of which the top end is removable to access the dual SIM card tray and the micro SD card slot. At 9.9mm thick, this is definitely a very chunky phone, but it doesn't feel like it. Surprisingly, even with a heavy construction and a big battery, the phone only weighs 189 grams, which is a lot less than most phones these days, crossing the 200-gram mark. Wrapping up the exterior, let's take a look around the phone for the placements. Starting from the top, we get a 3.5mm headphone jack to the top left and a secondary mic to the top right. Moving on to the left side, we get a power saving slider switch, which I'll get later into the video. Flipping on to the right side, we get the power key and the volume rocker. Finally, to the bottom, we get a micro USB port and 2 speaker grills, of which only the left side speaker is functional. Flipping up to the front, we have the display. It's a 5.5-inch Full HD IPS LCD panel, protected by Corning's Gorilla Glass 3. For 2015, this was a great panel given the fact that some mid-range phones at the time were still offering 720p panels. The display itself is very good. The colors and contrast are good for an LCD panel. One minor issue about the display has got to be outdoor brightness. When outdoors, the display is not so bright. The reason is not because of the display itself, but the way the software handles brightness. For some reason, the display does not reach its full brightness outdoors, auto mode or otherwise. There is a super bright mode which fixes this issue slightly, but it will dim itself again when you enable auto mode. Below the display are physical navigation keys, of which the back and recent keys are backlit. Now that we are done looking at the exterior, let's take a look at what's inside. Powering the phone is a pretty standard for the time Snapdragon 615 processor, which is paired with 2GB of RAM. It's not exactly a powerhouse, but it did have a few good things going for it. Firstly, this was a 64-bit processor, which at the time was a positive since 64-bit was just starting to take off. Secondly, this SoC prioritized efficiency over performance. In 2021, however, the 615 leaves a lot to be desired. It's fast enough for light tasks, but step it up and things start to get worse from here. What was not as worse, thankfully, was the GPU. The Adreno 405 GPU is as good or even better than the Adreno 320, which still holds up in 2021. Light to medium gaming was mostly less problematic. The phone originally shipped with Android 5.1 Lollipop, but it only got one update to Android 6 Marshmallow in 2016. The software mostly looks like stock Android with less bloatware. Ads and spammy notifications are basically non-existent. As for the power saving slider switch, it activates an ultimate power saving mode, which is like the emergency mode in Samsung One UI devices. This mode kills all apps in the background, limits background processes, and more to save as much battery as possible. There are 6 pre-selected apps that you can use when in this mode, all of which are just the essentials. The phone came in only one storage option, 32GB of the eMMC 4.5 type. For a phone from 2015, this was more than ample amount of storage. In 2021, this is the baseline storage for any phone. As expected, the storage is not blisteringly fast, but hey, it's at least much faster than a hard drive. Fortunately, we can expand the storage via the micro SD card slot, which supports up to 128GB SD card. Let us take a look at a few more things before moving on. For biometrics and security, there is a very fast fingerprint scanner embedded into the home button. The accuracy is on point. However, mispositioning the registered finger will not unlock the phone. There is Wi-Fi 5 and Bluetooth 4.1 on board, which was the norm for 2015. It also includes NFC and FM radio, for what it's worth. The headphone jack's output isn't anything fantastic, but it gets the job done. The speaker is good enough for a mid-range phone at the time. The vibration motor, however, is very good for a mid-range phone. It's close enough to flagships of 2015. There are two cameras in total, one to the back and one to the front. On the back, we have a 13MP f2.2 lens with face detection autofocus, assisted by the dual-tone LED flash to the bottom. The selfie camera is of 5MP. The selfie shooter is more than good for video calls and barely fine for social media uploads. Video maxes out at 1080p 30fps. Let us now take a look at some camera samples. The battery life for a 2015 mid-range phone is astonishing. The large 5000 mAh battery, which is kinda the standard for today's mid-range phones, was basically the best in its class back in the day. The phone easily lasts through a day with whatever type of usage pattern you have, and also takes you a bit into the second day if you're lucky. Charging speeds are also pretty respectable. While 18 watts is not anything mind-blowing today, it was great a few years ago. Plus, the phone has the ability to boost charge at 24 watts for a while till it slows down the speed to save the battery's health. The original 18-watt charger also supports Qualcomm's Quick Charge 2.2 standard. As for the charge timing, the phone takes around an hour and a half to go from 0 to 100%. The micro USB port also has another trick up its sleeve, USB on the go, which can turn the phone into a power bank. The OTG feature can also be used to connect peripherals like mouse, USB drives, etc. to the phone. It was absolutely a time capsule experience while reviewing this phone. 2015 was a very interesting year, mainly because 64-bit processors were starting to get adopted very quickly. The Lenovo Vibe P1 is still a great phone in 2021. The design, the build quality, the display and the battery life are very good. However, the performance has not aged well in 2021. Should you buy this phone? Maybe. As a backup, this is a well-made choice. For a main phone, I would mostly not recommend it for obvious reasons. Plus, it would be mostly out of stock since it is a discontinued model. The Lenovo P2, its successor, is a better phone in all aspects. You get a Super AMOLED display, 4GB of RAM, a much better Snapdragon 625 processor, and a slimmer body with a similar sized battery, which would make up for either a great backup or a decent main phone. The Lenovo Vibe P1 will be remembered in the history of smartphones as the first phone that tried to bring a high capacity battery to the masses, even before Samsung's first M series phones in 2019. That's it for this video. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. Also, if you want to watch more, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications with the bell icon so you won't miss our upcoming uploads.